of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp all around the world on Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeartRadio. Anywhere there is sound found around the internet, we are found making sound around the internet. And like a good joint, we are best when you share us with your friends. It is Wednesday, and on Wednesday we have as my joint host, Judge Lenny Frieling. Good morning, Your Honor.
Casper Leitch, my friend. Good morning. A pleasure as always. And as a segue into introducing today's special guest, I would like to observe potential alternate lyrics for one line in our theme song. Ain't got no clothes, ain't got no hemp.
Okay.
And that leads me in my own crude way, without the elegance of Casper segues, that leads me to introduce our friend, our superstar, and our specialist in the world of hemp fiber, the industrial fiber applications associated with marijuana, as opposed to the THC psycho-altering uses. Summer Star Haskey, to be found at Enviro Textiles, E-N-V-I-R-O, Enviro, like environment, Enviro Textiles, one word, .com, where she works hard, and in addition to working in the field, happily for us, knows something about it. We've been talking a lot about THC. Summer Star, let's start at the beginning.
Well, thank you, Judge Lenny, and thank you, Casper, and all the Time for Hemp listeners. I am honored to be here with you guys today.
Summer Star, let's start at the beginning. We talk about marijuana. We talk about hemp. We realize there is conflicting vocabulary, but using the generally accepted vocabulary, where does hemp fit in the picture? Just what are we talking about in the scope of this area?
Well, you know, really the best analogy to use to really make a clear separation is it's just like the difference between a bell pepper and a chili pepper. One's hot and one's not. You know, so you've got these cousin cannabis plants that have a lot of wonderful related attributes, but at the same time are really very different from one another. So even looking at the plant, you know, you see a variation in the plant, the fruit it's creating, and what's coming off of it, just like you would between different pepper varieties. So, you know, it's a very clear difference to some and maybe not so clear to others. So, you know, I think a lot of the confusion ended up coming from the fact that, hey, it has similar leaves. It's got these big buds that produce on the top of the plant to generate its seed, and it can smell pretty primo too.
Is there anything that can be said? Are there things that can be said generically about visual differences?
Absolutely. You know, when we're talking about industrial hemp, there's different varieties. So when we are looking at the real industrial grade varieties and what we're wanting to see move forward here in the U.S. and really generate these great big stalks and big seed pods to create that value for the farmer, you know, it's almost more like a bamboo stalk. It's a big, long stalk, very little leaves or little to no arms coming off that stalk. And then again, it just will produce that single bud on the top of that stalk rather than the marijuana that is your bushes and arms and multiple buds coming off from all over the place there. And so that, is a very clear visual difference between the two. Now we do have some issues with other varieties. There are land varieties that have been regenerating and growing in the U.S. that have been actually a noxious weed for some states. So, for example, in Nebraska, they tend to spend about $150,000 of taxpayer money to eradicate the ditchweed, they call it, off the sides of the highway. And that ditchweed is a short little bushy variety that you would maybe look at and think it was some kind of real poor quality marijuana, when really it's a ditchweed, poor variety of industrial hemp. And of course, nowadays we've got the CBD varieties that are growing, very much focused in Colorado. And those CBD varieties can also look a bit more like your marijuana plants. But when you're talking about the industrial varieties of hemp, whether it's a seed crop, a dual purpose crop, or a fiber crop, you're going to maintain that same, single stalk visual on it.
In general, if I take one of these beautiful looking industrial hemp buds that smells generally perhaps like really good head pot, looks like it, if I grind it up after removing the seeds, like in the old days, like what I thought in the day meant, remove the seeds, of course, strain them out with the cover of a double record album, if any of the other people even know what I mean by that. Yes. So we take the seeds out, we roll up this huge joint of Kansas ditchweed industrial hemp, and we smoke it. Am I going to get high?
You, unfortunately, are going to be very disappointed. So,
will I get a headache?
Well, it's funny because back in the day, when I was just a kid, we had the nation's third hemp shop. Okay. And of course, back then, this was like 1990. There was always the jokes. You couldn't talk about hemp without having the, oh, can I smoke my hat? And oh, can I, roll up my candle? And so we
why not? Sure.
So we started offering those folks that would come in a little baggie with a little pinch of hemp fiber and a rolling paper and said, have at it. But no, there's been some discussions about how much would it take to even be able to achieve a headache. And some have said, well, you could smoke a whole bale of it and be lucky if you ended up with a headache in the end, and that's because we're faced with this whole under 3% THC on the industrial hemp varieties. Now, that doesn't mean all the hemp varieties may average that THC level, but of course it is much lower in the THC. And I often like to remind people that there's more THC in broccoli and most green vegetables than there is in hemp. So
that is a wonderful factoid.
It is.
I'm writing that down. That is wonderful.
Yeah. And people often go, well, no wonder I like broccoli so much.
I love pointing out to people, and I'm going to ask you to summarize the story, the Victory for Hemp story. I love telling that and pointing out that the rabid emotional impact had by our friends Anslinger and Hearst in the very early part of the 20th century, early 1900s. The impact emotionally they had was so strong, we banned rope.
Yes. Yeah.
What am I talking about? Fill us in, please.
It's really disturbing to, it's one of those things I often like to talk to students when I speak at colleges and different events. And I often remind them how, one person can make a huge impact and change history. And how important that is to know. And you could be the next one. but then we've got the other side of it too, where, the opposing factor is that that's the same thing that we were facing way back then, is this 1, 2, 3 people or organizations that were able to influence, such a shift in where our whole nation was really kind of being founded upon. I mean, hemp was our first cash crop. We had our presidents that were planting it themselves, besides, the tax acts and the mandates for all farmers to grow a portion of their land towards hemp for the war. It's just so unfortunate to see how did we ever go the direction we did. And, it was thanks to a few, people that really had it out for something that could be such a problem for them. I mean, and that's something where we have to be concerned today. I mean, right now it's such an exciting time, but it's also a concerning time, because that's, again, when the big bad boys want to come in and influence or shut it down or end up taking over and doing something different with it. And so, to look back at that, and there's so many different theories of, was it really just them, or, no, it turns out that, the cotton farmers in the South were baling their cotton with hemp, and it was becoming too hard, and they were using the majority of the fiber. There was very little fiber really going to the rope, and more was going to these farms and being used for other things. And they ended up going with these metal straps or these polyurethane straps. And so, it's hard to know exactly, when that teeter-totter tilted the other way. But we know that it really should have never been classified as such. And here we are still fighting for it. It's like, wait a minute, you guys, we are in the 21st century. In 2009, the U.S. was declared as the largest importer and users of industrial hemp products in the world. But yet at that time, we still couldn't even plant it. And here we are still fighting for it and putting our poor farmers and workers and industry at risk with these federal guidelines.
I suggest to our listeners that they find on YouTube the most excellent print of Hemp for Victory. Yes. You've heard the phrase Manila hemp. Up until World War II, Manila hemp was what the United States used to make basically all rope, lines for ships. World War II progressing. We had battleships finished. We could not outfit them because we were running out of hemp to make rope. So the government went to the farmers in many ways, including this documentary, saying, this stuff is easy to grow, it's good to grow, so help us win the war, grow hemp for victory. After the war, I understand they burned our hemp fields. And now, please correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is, well, first, just quick overview, hemp is in the class of things, the group of things used to make fabric, more like bamboo, linen, cotton, the stuff that comes from plants, as opposed to animal sources of fiber to make cloth, such as when you shear a sheep or comb out a goat, or come with these other animal-sourced fibers. And as my final aside, and then I'll shut up, if you are going to weave a tallis, a Jewish prayer shawl, you can use all animal fiber or all plant fiber, but you can't mix the two. So we have hemp, which goes through this process of being cut down and being left a bit to rot, I believe called retting, RH. And there's a process that turns it into fiber. My understanding is that We get our generally coarser fibers primarily from China and Canada, and that to the extent that fine fibers, that a hand spinner, that somebody that was more interested in silk shirts than coarse wool shirts might want, that's coming out of Eastern Europe generally. I'm shutting up.
Well, no, actually, sorry, Judge Lenny, but that's opposite.
Talk to me.
Yeah, that's a little opposite. So, in Eastern, and of course now, starting off in Canada with our neighbors there, we're going into seeing them being now, 18, 19 years ahead of us, that they went ahead and passed their hemp initiatives. And of course, they kind of figured out pretty quickly there after those first few years. And we're seeing the same thing happen here now, where the farmers were very excited. They jumped right in, started planting, but there was nobody there to buy it or any kind of processing to utilize it at any rate at all. And thank goodness.
Just very briefly, all the promises of the biofuel that would outperform corn biofuel, so far, for whatever reasons, that is a use on halt. Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's not here and now yet. I personally would rather see many other plant materials used for biofuels than seeing our hemp go to that. It's very little value to our farmer. And of course, we want to see some really good, healthy hemp products for all of us to use. And there's a ton of great things that could be going to biofuels, especially waste materials from food facilities and things that, have been creating biohazards that need to be dealt with anyhow.
I took you out of Canada. So whenever,
no problem.
After interrupting you again.
No problem. So, I'd like to do a little global positioning of hemp today. And of course, Canada really figured out quickly, hey, the way we're going to be able to get our industry off the ground and really start producing products and creating jobs and even getting back on the global exchange and exporting our hemp, of course, mostly to the U.S. here, was focusing in on those seed crops that create the seed oil for foods and body care products. And of course, they have really done a fabulous job, and their country actually has put in different rules where they're saying, hey, we have certified seed where this year as farmers you're allowed to grow one or multiples of these 5 different seeds, but they've got to be so far apart or different regions. So regionalizing a state or a country is so important. And not only is that important for the various hemp varieties to not cross-pollinate each other and lose some of those great characteristics, but also to make it possible for processing to be able to come in. You've got to have a central location where you've got enough farmers around you all growing the same type of hemp to utilize for that facility to be operationable. And of course, I get calls every day. I had a farmer, a brand new farmer out in Vermont call me just yesterday morning. And the first thing he's saying to me is, well, my neighbor planted this kind, but I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. And I said, well, I hate to tell you, but guess what? You have to plant what your neighbor's planting. He got it in the ground first. And now this is so important because of these other, it's the trickle effect. Well, what are you going to do if you plant something else? And then the next guy down the road's planting something else. How do you guys ever expect to sell your hemp and allow there to be any kind of processing if everybody's got something different going on? So
that's what we refer to as cross-pollination, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that's going to happen is, you're going to start creating all new varieties of hemp we've never seen before. And you see that a lot in the cannabis community. And there's a lot of controversy around that. I mean, you talk to experts agronomists that'll say, hey, you never want to cross things. If you guys want to end up having some cool oil in the end that has all these different properties, well, you take some of the oil from this one and some of the oil from that one and then put the oil together. You don't cross the plants and start losing all those wonderful characteristics each of these the varieties held naturally for sometimes hundreds, thousands of years.
Is it fair for me to be only a little bit manipulative and refer to all the creation of new strains we're seeing as GMO pot?
Well, I mean, there's a difference. Yeah. I mean,
I realize we're not tweaking individual specific genes for specific purposes.
Right.
But I think a case can be made that we are creating at least some of the similar risks by creating unknown new genomes,
Absolutely.
new genetic models every time we do that. And I think that some smokers, imbibers would be horrified.
Yes.
To
absolutely.
think it was related to GMOs.
Well, I need to jump in here. Speaking of being horrified, I get horrified when I don't pay my bills because I got so many wolves at my door. It's not safe to go out. So to make that happen in my life to where it is so nice and easy to go out the front door, we're going to pay our bills here. And then we're going to listen to a song about how fantastic marijuana is. And then we'll come back and pick up where we left off here at Time for Hemp. All right, we're taking about a 4-minute break. What song do you want me to play? One Spleef a Day, Pack Your Bowls, Green Rush, or Ganja Tea? I marijuana.
I'm so old-fashioned. I always tend to go to Three Little Birds or something that, the children know.
We don't have that. The Star, what would you like me to play?
What was my options there? You said...
let's see, we've got Pack Your Bowls, One Spleef a Day, Green Gold Rush, Ganja...
Oh, yeah. Green Gold Rush. I'm sitting in Grass Valley, baby.
All right, Green Gold Rush is the song we'll play.
THCF Medical Clinics
and
are the premier physicians clinic in the United States.
Listen to the song?
Has
Give us
offices
a couple
all
of
across
minutes
the
to
United
make
States
sure
from Hawaii to
I
Michigan.
have the rest of what
Medical Clinics has helped
Substar wants to make
approximately
sure we cover.
150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess,
Okay,
grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or
in the
if
United
you have
States,
any gastrointestinal
at
disorders
what stage,
such as
what can I do?
irritable
Can I
bowel
grow?
syndrome, or if you have AIDS,
What changes
cancer,
are we
spastic
seeing?
disorders, seizure
So
disorders,
that
or
sources
glaucoma,
of materials,
call us at
what kind of stuff are you specifically offering on the
or visit us
website?
online at hemp.org. Again, the
What
number
uses
is 1-800
can the fiber be put to, depending on the quality we're getting?
hemp.org.
Yeah, all that sounds good.
The stuff that I'm reading, I've been hearing for years that use hemp save the world with the whole list of things. And I was so tired of hearing that because it was so obviously bullshit that I researched it. And after I researched it, I concluded that not only was it not bullshit, it was probably understated. You want to chat a bit about this potential broad world from hemp creek to just the crazy range of stuff where we're investigating, we're learning, we're looking.
Yeah, all that sounds great.
Other areas, anything that I'm leaving out?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it'll just lead into it. Another big area that we've been getting bombarded for is our processing equipment and machinery. And yeah.
Your cotton gin version.
Well, if only, man. If only.
Well, my understanding is that first, owning all the paper mills and newspapers could not have hemp competing with them with hemp paper. During this 1905 to 1915 period, the equivalent, here I'm telling you right, I'm hoping you'll say yes, that's right, or no, that's bullshit. The piece of magic equipment that was the functional equivalent in the process of the cotton gin was invented, taking the more theoretical threat to Hearst and the paper industry and making it very, very real because it made processing cost-effective by solving that challenge. That agree with what you understand?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that's some things we're facing right now, too, where, we really want to do some things that it's just not feasible quite yet, and that's a big key that plays into hemp production when it comes to the stock, So, yeah, absolutely, that's a good one.
Oh, and don't forget to ask her about her unreported income from all her drug sales.
No, let's not go there.
We have a sign in our local friend medical recreational store. The sign medical bud room, sale room, custom room is any discussion of gray market is forbidden, and any discussion of gray market will result in the immediate ejection of such a person.
Well, we're coming back.
Places like St. Croix, Jamaica, and Morocco need it. For the Queen, the Master Ganja, we are breeding. California legalize it, Colorado legalize it, yes, DC legalize it, but Virginia still a fight it. Places like St. Croix, Jamaica, and Morocco need it. For the Queen, the Master Ganja, we are breeding.
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I am your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp all around the world on Tumblr, SoundCloud, and, of course, timeforhemp.com. We are the only 24-hour day, 7-day a week, all cannabis all the time cannabis broadcasting network. Please share us with your friends. It is Wednesday, and with my joint host, Judge Lenny, we are learning all about the wonderful products that are made from hemp. 50,000 different products. Some people don't believe it, but Lenny, I think hemp can save the world, can't it?
Funny you should ask. For many years, I had been listening to hempologists, lovers of hemp. What's the Latin ending for lovers of? I've been listening to many people who seemed, I thought, sane, who seemed intelligent, rational, except that they kept saying, hemp can save the world. It can feed the world. It can close the world. It can house the world. It can solve all soil rehabilitation problems. It can solve crop rotation problems. And then they would first get started about what it could do. That was just getting the warm-up. And I got tired of hearing it because it was frankly so obviously utter bullshit. No product could meet this many claims. So I thought the reasonable thing to do, since I am called upon, whether I am or not, as a pundit, I figured the reasonable thing to do is what anyone would do. Look it up in Wikipedia and go from there. What I discovered, what I concluded was not only is hemp as amazing as people are saying it is, I mean, crazy so, not only is that true, but the more you look, the more you find. You don't find limitations, you find a wider range of uses. This is some pretty trick stuff. It is not just another competitive cotton plant. It is not single-purposed. And Summer Star Haskey, our guest, we're very excited. Summer Star, thank you for joining us. Summer Star at Enviro Textiles. Enviro like environment, envirotextiles.com. Star, am I on the right track in my bold statements about what I thought my research was showing? Is that what you've learned over your very broad and focused study and knowledge over years of industrial hemp?
Well, of course. I mean, I think the first person to really open everybody's eyes was Jack, and my mother and Jack were good friends, and Jack's book came out, and I think he was the first one. Now, you
tell everybody which scrolling Jack you're telling us about.
Well, Jack Hare. Jack Hare was our, leading voice to really get global recognition towards hemp in all its many uses and how hemp can save the world. And so, you often hear hemp supporters reference that, and I've spent my life going around with my patch on my backpack as a kid, big saying hemp can save the world with a big leaf covering the planet Earth, and all the great shirts that had as many uses as we could fit listed across the back of it. I think we ended up having one shirt that we were able to fit about 300 of the 50,000 uses. But I'll tell you guys, I personally would say that we've hit a heck of a lot more than that even these days.
If I want a hemp shirt and I want it imprinted, is that anything you guys do?
We do, yep. We've been making hemp promo T-shirts for 15 years now.
How much quantity do I need to order?
Well, we offer no minimums out of our Colorado facility, so it's all based on quantity. Once you start getting over those couple dozens into a gross or more, you really start to get the good deals because we're all working together to run these productions and get these prices down. And, of course, my shirt, our classic hemp T-shirt that's been around for 15 years, we still have people wander in the shop today saying, check out my shirt I've been wearing for 15 years, the same one, and it's just barely maybe getting a little worn in the neck. But other than that, it's in perfect condition and still performing every day for them. So it's really cool to see, after so many years, the fabrics hold up like that. And in a knitted jersey knit T-shirt like that, you often wonder, well, hey, we know our hemp canvases and our linens and our silks, are going to really hold up, and they're these real tight, beautiful weaves. But then you go into the knits and the furs and, the toweling materials, and you're going, well, we'll see how these do. And a lot of time those are going to be blended. It's a 55% hemp, 45% certified organic cotton blend. And that was very necessary for many years. It took my mother actually 3.5 years of development of our jersey knit to really feel that it was to the top standard that we could get. And of course, she started out with 100% hemp because, of course, we're hemp lovers, and we want to do everything 100% hemp. And every one of our developments started out that way. And, well, sometimes maybe it just wasn't exactly how it was going to need to go to be the best. And so in a knit, we found, okay, well, we've lowered it to 80%. Oh, we've lowered it to 70%, and we're still having some elongating where basically those first 100% hemp shirts were turning into dresses on you just throughout the day because it was stretching out. And we found, well, in a knit, we've got to do a blend. And of course, our blends, we always make sure to do a majority hemp. So we're still keeping all those wonderful properties, the breathability, the antibacterial, antifungal properties, it's going to last for you. And then, of course, the organic cotton, here's where if we're going to be using cotton, it darn well better be certified organic cotton because it's one of the most toxic growing practices on earth if it's not. So, it's been wonderful to see those products last so long. I mean, we even had Donnie Warshafter for a visit a couple weeks ago, and he's smiling as he walks in the door with his 15-year-old hemp shirt on his back. So
I have to smile. My wife, an award-winning fiber artist, spinning, weaving. I've been secondarily learning for decades from her. And one of the skills is to take somebody's dog coat that's been combed out, feel it, study it, and be able to say, this should be blended with about 30% cashmere.
Yes.
And depending, of course, on the application and whether you want some stretch in it, but I'll contact you privately because the shirts I need that will say, send Lenny guns and money, simply must be printed on hemp T-shirts. My wife, who's a 100% non-imbiber, it's simply not her thing, gets pleasure equal to very few things going through TSA airport security with her Rick Steves hemp backpack, her hemp stickers and pins. It makes her happy. She doesn't discriminate against different fibers. And I'm happy to say your T-shirts are kosher.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you need mystic knots, though, in the corners, and each of the three tribes has a different mystic knot. So we'll talk about that off the air. Let's talk about the state of hemp for a moment. We have the machines to process it. We can now do this. What are we allowed to do stateside? Can we grow? Can we buy it from Canada? What can we do?
Well, we have no problems with bringing in products. Of course, there's different guidelines for things. You know, when it comes to what I do with the fibers, yarns, and fabrics, I have no problems at all. I'm actually using import and transport codes that were created way back in the Hemp for Victory days. And so,
I'm sorry, let me interrupt. Import and what was the next word?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Import and transfer?
Yes, importing and transporting. So, when no matter what you're doing, of course, with all of our hemp right now, the majority of it is, of course, still coming in and being imported from all these various countries. So, of course, we have different import codes through U.S. Customs guidelines that you have to clear customs based on the classification of your product. Then once it's cleared customs, you're then transporting it from there to whatever facility or client it's drop shipping to. And so those transport codes are also another classification of the product that's being transported. And so, for example, with our hemp fabrics, we're in a really wonderful position because we don't have customs or freight lines looking at our product going, oh, well, fabric is fabric is fabric. No, hemp fabric is not, polyester fabric or cotton fabric or any of this other stuff. It's its own classification. And we've been wonderfully blessed with these codes that are keeping our cost as low as it can possibly be. So like when I transport, I've got the lowest class number that could be used, where the higher the number, the more expensive per pound or per square foot or per square meter, of the truck it's taking up, however that particular freight line might do it. So we're very lucky in that regard. And I see a lot of hemp companies actually not familiar with that. So I'm often advising them on, hey, we've got to get your classification. And it could be, one of three numbers, but they're all going to be very low, where they were currently using a classification that would have just put them right in the same guidelines as any other product that might have a similar description, but isn't hemp. So it's really important that people know that, and they can shave off, wherever possible to keep our price points down so we can really go after mainstream and start, getting the products further and further out there and more affordable for everybody.
Interesting. The political decision, and I'm not saying good or bad in my opinion, interesting that the political decision is to encourage the industry, the applications, at the expense of encouraging, at the moment, the growth and production. So the U.S. makes it cheaper to bring it in, which helps all the application businesses.
Well, and that was created back in the Hemp for Victory. So thank goodness with the federal classifications did not trickle down to the import classifications and the transport codes, because we were able to keep utilizing those all these years, or it really would have affected all of our work to getting hemp to where it is today. Can you imagine, here we were in the 90s offering fabrics that were 3 to 4 times more the price of the standard conventional fabric people were currently using.
And now?
And now we have, in the last 10 years, we have outbeat the price of linens, outbeat the price of silks, outbeat the price of most top upholstery and specialty weaves. And we're right there with organic cottons. And, the only thing we're never going to be able to outbeat are these cotton bargain shirts at Walmart for $5, and that's not our market and that's not our product. Those shirts aren't healthy and environmentally friendly. So, we're not worried about having to be able to outbeat or compete with those guys.
Well, we're like you. I need to jump in here because we're like you here at the Big Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. There is no other popsicle stand in the desert quite like us. And if you have a hemp company or a hemp product that you want to reach the marijuana movement with, the cannabis movement with, all around the world, on radio, television, and in print, contact us here at Time for Hemp and become one of our sponsors. And why do we want that to happen? Because we want to see the marijuana movement grow, pun intended, and make it a point to tell our sponsors that you heard about them here at Time for Hemp.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is HEMP.org. Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
Well, I once had a bowl, good green reefer, a big fat Joe beef, much, much sweeter. Mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Well, mighty don't hide it. Mighty don't hide it. Well, mighty don't hide it.
Yeah, fire up right now. Be loud, be proud. Come out of the closet and let the whole world know that you do partake. Recreational, social use, I don't care, medical use, whatever the reason, you need to quit hiding in the closet and being terrified of your children, of your boss, of your mommy and daddy, and realize if you're old enough to be smoking marijuana, you need to be old enough to be honest with the world around you. Because as long as you're lying about it and hiding someplace, you make it seem dirty and like it's not something you're supposed to do and like you're ashamed of it. And if you come out of the closet and stand up, let everybody know you do it, and you're proud of it, they'll get off your back, and you can stand shoulder to shoulder with, 78, 90 million other people in this country, and I don't know how many people around the world, and let the whole world know that it's important to take time for hemp. Is that not correct, Your Honor?
Well, I'm just sitting here wondering if a substance which is benign makes me feel better physically, happier, better emotionally, is that medical with side effects that I happen to like? Or is that recreational? Or is that both? I would put out there that, in fact, in this case, the two, in many cases, cannot be separated. Now, if you say somebody's not having seizures, so they're therefore happier, true, but not quite what I'm talking about.
Now, Dennis Perone says that all use is medical use.
There you go. In some states, you bet it is. We not only are we fortunate, blessed to have Summer Star Haskey and EnviroTextiles.com with us as a guest. Summer Star is an expert, a long experienced worker, importer, company runner dealing with hemp, industrial hemp products, and I am thrilled to report that during our break, Summer Star has agreed to come back. The show is simply too short. We're all simply too interested in fiber, or frankly, should be interested in fiber. When you watch Ben-Hur, you should be looking at the fiber and seeing if it looks like somebody hand spun it and hand wove it. And if they did, you should appreciate that. And if that's not what you're seeing, call upon the costume person to say, get your act together. Where's your verisimilitude? Where's your hemp clothing?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that, Lenny, because I have, over the last 3 years, become one of the go-to suppliers for Paramount Picture films. So, it's been exciting to see hemp hit so many areas and be able to look at a film and go, man, everything in there is hemp fabric now. How cool,
My wife hits that every time. She makes sure I notice it. So you're succeeding, and we notice it. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank all the people behind the scenes that are implementing it on set and making sure that they're not missing it. And it's funny because the hemp fabrics have just come so far over the last 20 years that, these designers take one look at it and they're in love with it before they even know that it's hemp.
Please pass on our thanks. And please pass on that there are people that watch movies and make it a point to see just that very thing.
Yes. So many areas are opening up, and you mentioned your wife and how she's never smoked a joint in her life, but she's this fiber lover that just loves natural fabrics and healthy products and how important they are. That's been one of the beautiful things about industrial hemp and so many of our products is it's opened the eyes to so many people that weren't necessarily cannabis lovers or just naturally attracted to the other side of cannabis. We've been able to kind of get them to lean towards, well, hey, if hemp is this wonderful, then, start opening your minds and your hearts up to the other side of cannabis and how necessary and needed all of these products are for us. And we're seeing lives being changed because there's finally access for folks.
What state? My understanding is, setting aside things like areas in Colorado where one can legally, if one can obtain the seeds, which of course we know is manna from heaven because it can't come from anywhere else. If one gets their seeds and can legally grow, not what I'm talking about. Let's say somebody in your position perhaps not growing industrial hemp, but obtaining the product legally from, say, Canada. What state, it's not seeds, in what stage of becoming a T-shirt do you get the hemp?
Well, I mean, we are field to finished product overseas, and we've even opened our own trading company, Global Green Industries Ltd, in 2007. So we are now field to export to offer that entire transparency. But you know, is that U.S. grown, U.S. made? No. You know, right now in the U.S., obviously, you know, we've got 27 states now that have gone forward with some type of industrial hemp agricultural legislation. Of course, only a handful of those states were able to kind of push their Department of Agricultural final rulings through. Of course, in Colorado, we were really lucky that our final rulings with Department of Ag were finalized before the 2014 Farm Bill, because, of course, you know, in our state in Colorado, we have approved to allow farmers to either come in and they can buy a research permit that is 10 acres or less, or they can buy a full ag permit, and it's $1 per acre for however many acres they'd like to grow. Where that 2014 Farm Bill, which was the first time the federal government actually, approved hemp as being an agricultural crop, but within that approval said, well, we're only going to allow you guys research and development at this time. So again, that's 10 acres or less. And, you know, how much hemp can we get out of 10 acres or less? Not a whole lot. So you see states like Kentucky where, you know, they said, hey, you know, we're going to go forward once we have the federal approval. Well, here comes the federal approval in the Farm Bill. And Kentucky said, well, okay, we can do this 10 acres or less and know that our farmers are not only protected under our state guidelines, but also under the federal guidelines. So, you know, we had a real advantage in Colorado. And not only that, but our Department of Ag saying, hey, we're going to have a don't ask, don't tell policy on where you're getting your seed, which was awesome. But at the same time, maybe not so awesome because, you know, I'll tell you, 50% of the farmers I know growing, and we've got just about 300 farmers now in Colorado with hemp permits of some sort. And about 50% of those folks that I know said they ended up getting their seed on Craigslist. Okay. So,
I don't know. We maybe should edit that out.
Well, no, but so this is where, you know, it's important for people to know. Don't go on Craigslist, you guys. I mean, you have no idea what you're going to get your hands on. And that's been the biggest problem is these poor farmers were thinking, all right, we got hemp seed. We're going to grab it up. You know, anything we can get our hands on is the way they were kind of looking at it. When really they should have been going, well, wait a minute, what is this stuff and how do I know it's going to be right? And sure enough, you know, each harvest season that comes around, we're having to go off to the farmers' land and identify what kind of hemp they got. And not only are we getting there and finding a whole heck of a lot of it is ditchweed, but then we're also finding that these bags of seed they got were a combination bag. And there are so many different types of plants in this little plot when we show up that they don't have one usable variety to save the seed for next season. You know, so it's actually been a big problem where we're going, you know what, guys, it's actually better that you weren't able to get your hands on more of that stuff because this isn't the type of hemp you're going to want to go forward with, and you've got a little enough amount here to now try to get it out of there and start with the right stuff.
Besides, people need to realize that Craigslist is for dating. Good golly, right? I mean, I got it. No, really, my dating life improved ever since they started having Craigslist. Oh, my golly. And with that said, we want to put a spotlight on your favorite URLs or organizations. We're down to the end of the hour here. And we'll start with our guest, Summer.
Well, you can, of course, visit envirotextiles.com to see our company. Definitely take some time on there. There's a ton of wonderful content to check out. Our history, our standards and certifications page, and our news page are some really, really wonderful, credible information to back up hemp and what it can do. Of course, we've got Facebook, Instagram, Enviro Textiles, Summer Star Hemp, and Hemp Fashion Show. And, of course, we always like to give a shout-out to Vote Hemp and HIA. And, of course, we are a week away from Hemp History Week, so definitely check that out. And
we want to point out to our audience that Summer has brought so much to the table that Judge Lenny and I have requested that she come back next week as a guest on the big broadcast. At any time this program is ran on the network as an encore, parts 1 and 2 will be ran together so that you can enjoy the benefits of all that Summer brings with her about the wonderful plant known as hemp. Right, Your Honor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Give thanks and praise to Jamostai Rastafari. Summer Star, what a treat. I want to give my shout out to my wife, Debbie Dodge, and what I have learned about fiber art, fiber spinning, related things to allow me to attempt and at times hopefully succeed in keeping up with this conversation today. It's because of people it is because of Summer Star and friends that places like Paramount Pictures are showing clothing the way it existed. We know we're supposed to appreciate our food. How many people appreciate what goes into their clothing if they've never seen fibers spun into yarn and then yarn woven into cloth? It's difficult to appreciate it.
And how about My Canary, Your Honor?
My Canary. People are going crazy looking for the holy grail of determining impairment on the road. A lot of pot focus, and in general, impairment on the road. They're looking at chemistry. They're wrong, simply wrong. My Canary app, mycanaryapp.com. We have designed, implemented, and have on iTunes My Canary, which allows one to set their baseline and then to compare their reaction time, short-term memory, balance, with a paradigm put together by a world-known, honest-to-God rocket scientist, professional sports scientist, who has worked with us to design an iTunes app, only Apple at the moment, to allow you to evaluate your own performance without the guesswork. Not how do I feel, but testing it. mycanaryapp.com. The Holy Grail is there. Just go get it.
And with that said, I want to remind people that we are a team of people dedicated to ending prohibition, broadcasting all around the world. And if you like the information that you've heard today, we have archives where all of the programming produced at this network is free to download so you can share it with your friends. Lots of apps if you have a smartphone or walk around with a tablet and enjoy the internet via MP3s. You can download all of our MP3s, share us with your friends, use your apps to listen to our live broadcast. And remember, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look and spend some time for hemp. hemp. Don't cut trees